Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. So I'll just go through a quick overview of MentorColor. What we're trying to accomplish with MentorColor is that we want more people of color in tech to get some representation and get access to opportunities. And one of getting access to those opportunities also requires actually tapping into the experience that exists. And so with MentorColor, we give you access to world-class mentors. These are people that are really good at what they do. They work at top global companies, and you can tap into their experience to accelerate your career in tech. So far we have over 200 mentors from all across the world. Our mentors help with one-on-one and group mentorship sessions. Everything is done online, and you can get support on like interview skills, on leadership, code review, and just general career advice. And as you can see for this session, we'll be focusing on cybersecurity. So our mentors come from all disciplines in tech, ranging from front end to back end and even data. And every week we have sessions like this. So we encourage you to go and check out the different sessions that we have and RSVP, get the best out of it and learn from our mentors. And after this session, you also receive an email to give some feedback around the session. So feel free to do that. That's going to help help us improve and help other people find the right group sessions for them. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to give it over to Marco, who's going to be hosting this session.
All right.
I'll stop
Thanks
sharing.
for the introduction. Cool. All right. There we go. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. All right. Okay. So thanks once again, Victor and Boina, for inviting me and having me here today. And not only that, also for putting up this great initiative together. I think this is really important to highlight. It's a really, really beautiful thing you guys are doing. I'm glad to be part of it as well. All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to break into cybersecurity. And I suppose that if you're here today, you've probably heard a little bit about it. Maybe you're curious. Maybe you've been struggling with it for a while. So I'll try to very briefly cover some of the basics about this, some strategies, some do's and don'ts, and then we can follow up with questions. All right. Cool. Before we get started, a little bit about me. I'm a security engineering manager. I work for a startup, a scale-up called Global here in Barcelona in Spain. But I've spent most of my career as a security engineer, mostly in the pen testing field and on the offensive security field. So the fancy part. So let's talk a little bit about that as well. I spent some time in the military as well. I see I have some old folks from those times here. Really nice to see you guys. I have a bachelor's degree in computer engineering and a bunch of blah, blah, blah certifications, just a bunch of letters. And I think the best way to describe myself is through this meme on the right. I promised you guys a lot of memes. Not sure if I succeeded, but this is a very accurate description of somebody working in security for a while. My friend John, 26. Yeah, terrible memes. And so, all right, let's go to the meaty part. So you want to join cybersecurity. Cool, great. Let me ask you something. Why? That's the first question I'm going to ask you. The first question I normally ask my mentees. Why do you want to do this? Do you know what you're doing exactly? Do you know the landscape well? So these two parts are not related to cybersecurity specifically, but I really want to focus on this before we move to the technical part. So many people just miss those important points. So achieving clarity, so being able to answer why you're doing this, and really having a broad understanding about all the possibilities that this field offer. This is so very important. So you can start it right. Once you achieve this point, you want to learn the fundamentals. That's the next step in this strategy. And last but not least, after doing this, you'll be able to showcase your progress and focus on the nice part of getting your first job in this area. Now, one thing to clarify here before we start is everything that I'm saying here is based on my experience, and of course it's biased. So if you do some research on the internet, you'll see folks saying different stuff, and that's okay. Nothing of it is written in stone, and it's very important to know that all the opinions are biased and there's not a single answer. If you're coming from an IT background, there is one path for you. If you're coming from no IT background at all, that's a different thing. Maybe you're a developer breaking into cybersecurity, or you're moving laterally from help desk. So there are multiple paths. There is not a single answer, but these 4 steps are what I consider like the basics for everybody. This is based on mostly my experience in mentoring people, but also what I've seen so far. So yeah, it's not written in stone. Feel free to ask me questions at any moment, or, well, it's an open discussion. All right, let's start with the first point. Know your why. So again, do you really want to break into cybersecurity? Why? Do you know what it means? Have you considered all the parameters that are related to it? So when we talk about breaking into cybersecurity, people have many different ideas. Some say, hey, I want the big money. Hey, I want to do some interesting stuff. I want to be the guy in the hoodie, as I saw in the movies. That's valid at some point. I mean, I'm not judging at all, but it's very important that you know your motivations very clearly. And I'll get there when I talk about learn the fundamentals and the steps that you have to go through. This is not an easy task, for sure. It's not. It takes time. It requires a lot of effort. And you need to know what you're doing right from the start. So all the requirements, what are your requirements? Well, where do you leave? Where do you want to leave? How much money do you want to make? How quick do you want to make it? Is there any needs that you need to consider? What are your expectations? Are they realistic? How much time and money are you willing to invest on this effort, on this journey? I'm bringing this up because the goal here is to set realistic expectations. I think a mentor might be very helpful for you at this moment. So again, MentorColor can help you with that. But it's very important that you reach clarity at this point. I'm bringing some other tools that I learned along the way that might be helpful at this moment. Again, I'm no coach or anything. It's just some ideas that might help you with. The SWOT diagram, so writing down your strengths, your weaknesses, your threats, and the opportunities. And the 5W, 2H, 5W and 2H. So answering those questions, what are you working on? When do you want to be there? Where do you want to leave? Why are you doing it? How much money do you want to invest or make? So it's about getting clarity. That's the end goal. So those tools can help you with, but the end goal is to be able to write those questions. So my recommendation is, after this call, take some moment, grab a pencil, a paper, and write down those ideas. For real, it's really useful. It's a very good exercise, not only for cybersecurity, but anything in your life. That's my first advice for real. Okay. Now for the most important part. Okay, you already have your answers, your whys, your whats, and the next point is, when I talk about cybersecurity, what comes to your mind? Right? This is a valid question. It sounds silly, but it's not. And when I ask my mentees about this, I get all kinds of answers, like from NSA hackers to, being a guy in the hoodie or protecting networks. And all those answers are right. Don't get me wrong, they're right. But it's important that you understand this. Cybersecurity is much more than just one thing. So this is not scary at all diagram here. It shows a little bit of how broad cybersecurity is. So So this is the key takeaway at this moment. So you need to understand a little bit about the landscape, about the different opportunities, paths, roles that you could assume along the way. Okay. Again, a mentor can help you a lot with this. But if we are talking about pen testing or the guys in the hoodies and break into systems and all those fancy stuff, you realize that this is just a small box in this big ocean of boxes, right? It's a relevant thing, it's a real thing, but it's just a small part of it. You have so many other areas as well. It's important to know when we're talking about cybersecurity, what exactly are you talking about? Maybe I have something in mind and you have something completely different. And the paths you will have to go through to reach each of those boxes are different, of course. So for instance, if you're coming from a non-IT background and you want to break into cybersecurity, maybe you could focus on governance. Maybe you'll have more transferable skills here. This is a less technical area, but not less important. Maybe auditing, maybe compliance, working with frameworks and standards, maybe even education, maybe mentoring, who knows, or training. So all those areas are also part of security. Security is not just the technical parts. It's not just writing code. It's not breaking into stuff. There's much more. Now, out of all these options, you might think, okay, give me one of them, right? I have no idea about it. Let me tell you that the most common options for entry-level positions are normally on this side here of security operation. That's where most folks begin with, at least when they want to go to the technical part. It does not mean you could not start as a pen tester or any other area, like threat intelligence is quite interesting as well. But it's very common to start as a SOC analyst, okay, security operations center analyst. So this guy basically will review logs, will review the alerts that they receive from multiple tools and do this first line of processing. It's very good to gain experience, and this is the key part. At some point, you will need experience. That's the main challenge for beginners in this area. Let's cover that in more detail in the next slides. But yeah, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. It's very important to have clarity on what you're doing and set realistic expectations and understand that cybersecurity is very broad and it requires a lot from you, a lot. Okay, so yeah, if you're thinking about the 6 digits salary, about hacking the planet, that's pretty cool, but let's start with the beginning, right? There is a lot of lab work to do before you get there. So far, so good. Cool. Also, I can share this presentation with you, no problem at all. Again, repeat after me. Bart knows it. Cybersecurity is not just tech. So again, it's very, very broad. It's about people, it's about processes, it's about business. There is a techie part, yes. Most of us are thinking about this when we talk about cybersecurity, but it's a lot more than that, all right? So I just want to highlight this information because it's a key thing that beginners need to have in mind. All right, and let me give you some numbers on cybersecurity. So you probably heard that it's an emerging market and there is high demand and salaries are high and it's everywhere. It's a way to future-proof your career. So how much exactly? Let's try to quantify it. And there is this great study or research by Zaka. There's a small typo here from last year. It's called State of Cybersecurity. I highly recommend you to check it. They made a great research here, and 2 questions in this report were like this. How would you describe the current staffing of your organization's cybersecurity team? And if you do the math here, it's like over 60% said significantly understaffed or somewhat understaffed. 60% of all companies that they interviewed. It's a very broad sample. And the second question actually confirms this. Does your organization have open cybersecurity positions? And well, over 50% said yes. So yeah, it really is a hot thing. There is a lot of demand for sure, which is again why many beginners are eluded by this. So let's get to this point. So yes, it is a hot area. Yes, it is very broad. Yes, there is room for everybody as long as you do it correctly. So worldwide, I just did a quick LinkedIn search and I got like over 1 million results for security just for this word. So indeed, it is a hot thing. It is. It's not saturated at all. You don't have to believe me. You can check it by yourself. However, this box here, it tells a very important piece of it. Most of these positions are not beginner friendly. And this is an important thing to be said. There are many people out there saying that cybersecurity is not for beginners at all. Like, it's built on top of a bunch of knowledge. It's built on top of networking, programming, well, at least for the tech part. So many people say it's not for beginners. You should start from some other area, like an IT job, and then move laterally to it. I completely disagree. There are many beginner-friendly positions, but it's important to know that most of these are not focused on entry-level positions. And therefore, the expectations need to be aligned with this. So I mentored a few people who thought, I'm going to do a few courses, I'm going to learn a bunch of stuff, and in a few months, I'll have my job. Well, that's highly dependent on where you're based at, on your background. There are many things to consider. It's not that simple. So these numbers can be a little bit misleading. It's not to say that there are not great opportunities. Yes, there are, but it's important to set the right expectations. Again, a mentor can help you with that. Okay. I don't want to scare you by any means, so I want to make this as useful as possible to you guys. So I selected 4 resources in case you're just getting started. All right. So if you're not familiar with cybersecurity at all, I would highly recommend you checking those 4 resources. So Stefan did a great job putting together all the steps necessary to break into this market. It's very US centric. He moved from Germany to the US. He started from zero, from a completely different industry. And he did a great job here. So this is an amazing works for free. It's available. If you want to break into security, start by this one. Go on. Any questions? Oh, right. Well, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me at any time. Another great resource is CyberSec. So they have this hack the gap thing where you're going to have a better understanding about all the positions, the roles, the paths, the key things you need to learn, and also about salary. So it's very, very interesting. Again, it's very US centric as well, but it kind of reflects what you're going to find worldwide. I wrote this blog post with 12 golden rules for breaking into cybersecurity. It pretty much resumes, it sums up what I'm talking about here, so you can find it codified there. Last but not least, this podcast is amazing. So I think it's very important for this part of, getting used to cybersecurity and understanding what's really about, all the different areas. Check this podcast. It's going to tell you a lot in short stories, and it's so technically accurate and interesting. So it's a great resource for beginners as well. My last tip here on how to get started in this initial moment where you're still, understanding what is this all about is getting a mentor. Like, for real, this is going to help you a lot. In case you don't have it, I hope you do. Go to MentorColor and ask someone to help you there. I mean, there are so many great people, putting their time to help you for free. They could be working, they could be studying, they could be living their lives, and they're here to help you, to support you. So this is really, really nice. Big shout out to those guys. It's really amazing. All right. So we covered a little bit about, getting clarity and understanding the landscape, and setting realistic expectations. Cool. All right. Let's suppose you already did that. What exactly do you need to learn to work at cybersecurity? Now, this is what I find, regularly. So many people want to jump into cybersecurity. No, cybersecurity, big money, interesting stuff. Yeah, it's everywhere. Future-proof your career. Cool. And then they, enroll in those $29.99 dollars course, and they think they're gonna get whatever they want in a few months. And the reality is that for the technical part, there is a lot to learn before that. So it's very important not to rush into it and start from the beginning. So you don't want to be like this dog, okay? For real. You really have to know your TCP/IP stuff, your networking stuff, you know, internet layer, all these things, operating systems, being familiar with Linux, coding, learning something about programming. You don't have to be a software engineer, but you do. Well, it's going to help you a lot learning some programming, at least some Python or C, in case you're going to a more reverse engineering focused side. The bottom line is there are many things to learn before you get to the interesting part of cybersecurity properly, right? And it's so important not to skip it. So I really want you to get this message. So I wrote down one big slide with this message: don't skip the basics, all right? So I don't know how to stress this enough. Okay, you really don't want to be that person that got a job but have no idea what you're doing because you didn't cover the basics. So I see many people jumping into bug bounty and fancy stuff, and they want to, you know, break in real quick. But if you don't cover the basics, you're gonna miss it at some point for you. So again, this is a very, very important message. It's so important that when I was reviewing this presentation, I was like, I'm not sure if it's clear enough. So I called a friend of mine he's like a super Jedi for PowerPoint presentations. And I called him and said, hey, Todd, how can I really stress one specific message? And he said, very easy, just put it in red. All right, so thank you, Todd. Don't skip the basics in red. I really don't know how to stress this enough. All right. So for real, this is a very important part. You might be wondering at this point, okay, what are the fundamentals? What are the basics? You know, okay, what should I do? So I'd like to split this into two parts. Okay, on the left side, we have the hard skills, the technical part that you should know for most of those areas, if not for all of them. And on the right side, you have the soft skills. Okay, both are equally important. And that's also a point to stress. Let's start with the left side. Okay. On the left side, we have here networking, operating systems, programming, fundamentals of information security, and hands-on experience. So you don't have to be like a super expert in none of them to land your first job, but you do have to have basic knowledge for each of them. All right. It's not only that, but security is built on top of those foundations. So for each of those points here, you really want to spend some time getting used to it. Again, if you're coming from an IT background, you might be used to some of them. So if you're coming from a programming background, you're already a developer, maybe some of these parts will be easier. If you're a sysadmin or, well, some network related area, networking and operating systems might be easy. But at the end of the day, all of us should have the minimum knowledge on at least those specific points, right? It's very important as well to understand that for this to work, you need to have hands-on experience. So especially if you're still trying to break in and you have no experience at all, it's really important to try to get your hands dirty. You know, set up some lab, fire up your Kali Linux instance, and try to get some practical experience. This is so important, right? Try to balance this, some theory and some practice. You don't want to be the guy that only knows the theory, nor the guy that only knows the practice. A balanced approach is the way to go here. All right, cool. On the right side, we have soft skills, so underrated. And let me tell you, this might be even more important than the hard skills at some point. Curiosity, critical thinking, being a team player. You're not going to be a lone wolf in this realm, and especially communication. Those four things, from my experience, are essential. Okay, there are many others you can add here: leadership, well, many others, but those four are essential for anyone working in any of those fields, any of those areas in cybersecurity. right? I'd like to hear a great read in case you like reading. I highly recommend it. The Pleasure of Finding Things Out by Feynman. I think it sums up, it has nothing to do with cybersecurity, but it sums up the curiosity and kind of critical thinking that is essential for this area. This is a great read, highly recommended. But yeah, the bottom line is don't underestimate those. The good news is that all those skills, either on the left or right side, all of them are learnable. Okay, you can develop them. So maybe you're not a good communicator. That's not a problem. You can learn it, but just keep this in mind. It's a skill that you need to learn, just as you need to know how to code a little bit. Okay, you don't have to be like a super communicator or Oprah or anything, but you do have to be able to clearly communicate your ideas and make sure that you're being understood. Am I being understood? Cool. And I have some data to back these affirmations. So this is from the same study by Seka. There is a typo here again, sorry for that. So in this report, they asked those leaders in cybersecurity, what are the biggest skills gap that you see today in cybersecurity professionals? And guess what? The number one is not programming. It's not networking. It's not system hardening. It's soft skills. It's communication. And I fully agree with it. I really would like to talk to this person here who said no skills gap seen. It's quite interesting. I think it's a troll. But anyway, majority of leaders, they agree that soft skills are fundamental. So it's not something to ignore. And it's also something you could use for your advantage. Maybe you're coming from a different background. So I remember some time ago, I mentored a person who used to be a journalist, and they wanted to break into cybersecurity for whatever reason. And their communication skills were amazing. The presentations, the capacity to clearly communicate, to understood and understand, to be understood and to understand. It was amazing. So this is highly significant. So even if you don't have all the technical background, you're still in the game. All right. Focus on those specific points that I mentioned, and you're going to be on the right track for sure. Last but not least, showcase your progress. Now, this is where things get interesting. So you've been through a lot when you've reached this point, all right? You already, spent a lot of time thinking about what you're doing, getting clarity, understanding, talking to people. You spent a lot of hours and invested some money, maybe, learning the basics. And now you want a job. So what are the realistic expectations regarding this? I think the biggest problem here is this, what I call the evil entry-level loop. This is terrible because, you need experience to get a job, and you need a job to get experience. And most entry-level positions will require some experience. And that's the tricky part. How can you, get your first job if all first jobs require you to have 1 year of experience in that job? It makes no sense, right? So this paradox is actually a problem in the cybersecurity industry, something that we need to solve. But for now, that's the real situation. For most positions, that's what you're going to find. There are many strategies to bypass this. And again, I recommend you discussing this with your mentor. But there are some ideas that I would like to highlight here to bypass this. So first thing is documenting what you did. So whatever you're learning should result in a deliverable somehow. Now, if you create a home lab and you spend countless hours, playing around and setting up tools, going through Wireshark and checking your logs, that's amazing. That's a great job. Why don't you create a blog post for that and help other people as well while you're documenting and reinforcing your learning? So having a blog is a great idea. I used to have one. It helped me a lot for learning, for helping people, and also for documenting whatever I was doing. You can do the same thing for other things. So there is Hack the Box, this amazing platform that is going to help you a lot that's going to teach you a lot about pen testing and other stuff as well. So you could document your write-ups, your progress there, make it public. It's good for you. You could contribute for open source projects. So OWASP is an organization. I'm going to write down here in the chat, OWASP. It's a great organization, and they have multiple open source projects. And if you want to, hone up your programming skills, or be part of this amazing community, you could contribute to those repositories as well. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for them. Win-win situation. And it's going to look good in your resume as well. Another strategy is going with CTFs, so capture the flag. These are kind of exercises like you have a few challenges and you need to get the answer. It's well, a very poor description, but it's a really nice exercise. There are many CTFs focused on beginners, and it's a great way for you to exercise your critical thinking, curiosity, and technical skills as well. So also a very, very way to, showcase what you're doing. Getting certified, I mean, you probably heard about it. There is some kind of fetish. It's really weird how this industry values certification, especially in the beginning. There are reasons for that. We can discuss it in some other moment, not exactly the reasons you might be thinking of. But the bottom line is getting a certification will help you a lot. So next slide, we're going to cover a little bit more about this. Yeah, hackathons, for sure. Hackathons are good as well. Fully agree. Being part of conferences, networking, volunteering, that's also a great way to get exposure. Maybe, meeting people who you're going to work with someday. This community is not that big. Yeah, sooner or later, you're going to find people that you've already seen somehow. So being in conferences is a great way to get some technical knowledge and also network. Working on your resume now, we could work talk about it for a whole hour or probably more. I see lots of people with great potential. They've been through all those steps, but the resume is so, not there yet. It's not highlighting the good things that these people have. So you really want to understand how this resume thing works. Again, a mentor could help you with that. It's a very, very, very important part as well. So it's not enough to know everything, to have all the background, the knowledge, the skills, communication, if you're not able to put that in a one single page resume. Okay. Last but not least, let me tell you this. Whenever you show passion, that's a major differentiator for beginners. Now, when you're a beginner, you don't have that much to show. That's for real. Maybe you're getting your first job. So showing your passion and talking about how much you really enjoy this, your motivation, remember your whys, this is going to make a lot of difference. So this is something you should cultivate and be able to explain how much passionate you're about it. What are your motivations? Because, all those things we've been talking about, you can learn. Well, not the basics, but the most advanced part, you can learn during the job. If you have the right mindset and the passion, that's a perfect match. So don't be afraid to show this off. All these strategies and points here will help you to, back this assertion that you're a passionate person. 2 pro tips here. The first job is the hardest one. Okay, it's not that easy to land the first job if you have 0 experience or you're coming from an unrelated area. Okay, it gets easier. The more experience you have, the easier it gets. The second pro tip is moving into security with an IT background is much easier. And that's why you're going to see people saying you should start, as a help desk or sysadmin, or, go to the military, get some IT related job, and then move to cybersecurity. It's also related with that thing that cybersecurity is built on top of a bunch of bodies of knowledge. It's not easy. It requires you to, have some experience, previous experience. That's the truth. I don't agree this is the only way. There are many paths. I know many people who started from security and moved on, but indeed, it's much easier if you're coming from an IT background. So this is something to keep in mind as well. All right? Cool. Certifications. Just to be very clear about this point, it is important, it is helpful. Just do it right. It's a big commitment on your end, especially if you're paying for it. Most of those certifications are expensive, and they require a lot of effort and dedication to get there. It is useful. Yes, it is very useful. I'm not gonna lie. But it's not the only thing. It's not enough to be certified. If you're certified but you don't know the content, it's not enough. And you go through interviews and people are going to ask you questions, and they know it. I mean, I've seen people when I was hiring that had a bunch of certifications, but in fact they didn't know the content. They didn't have the experience for backing that up. If you're just getting started, you might feel a little bit lost about it. There are so many certifications and courses out there. So I'll go straight to the point. My personal recommendation, start with Security Plus. CompTIA certifications, they are, beginner friendly. Maybe you will even want to start with more basic certifications from CompTIA, like Network Plus or even A+. But Security Plus is a good start. So if you're completely lost, take a look at the syllabus here and focus on this. There are many great resources for free or very affordable out there. And it's not one of the most expensive certifications as well. You could also diversify a little bit and focus on cloud certifications. I know Microsoft provides some free certifications for fundamentals. That's pretty cool. AWS is also very useful. It doesn't even have to be security specific. Any cloud certification is going to give you some advantage here. All the other ones are good. I mean, I have some points here regarding CEH. It's very famous. Focus on Security Plus, it's better. I'm not making any money out of it. I'm just saying based on my experience. You probably heard about offensive securities like the gold standard. It's really good, but I don't recommend beginners to go with it. So again, Security Plus is my opinion, just my 2 cents here. My last topic before we open, for questions. I know we're a little bit out of time, but I see those 2 topics over and over again, from beginners to very senior people. Most of my mentees at some point talk about this, and I want to discuss this real quick. This is a real thing, all right? Imposter syndrome and burnout. So I'm bringing here these 2 images that sum up this very well. It's amazing painting by Botero, and imposter syndrome is exactly what's described here. When there's high expectations and you feel like you're not up to them. And my advice here is to consider 2 points. You might think others know a lot, but it's probably way less. And you might think you know nothing, but you probably know way more than that. It's just a bias that we as human beings have. But keep this in mind. I mean, it's a win-win relationship. You've been through a lot of stuff that those people have not, and vice versa. So even if they seem to know more about some stuff, they don't know about other things that you do. So there's no reason to feel like an imposter. Just take the chances and be humble, be kind. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's part of the game. This is a real thing. I know people who quit cybersecurity because of this. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of pressure. There is a somewhat toxic, community at some point, but it's no reason for quitting. So I highly recommend you considering those points here. And on the other side, South Park, yes, amazing, right? So if you're not taking time off to avoid burnout, you're gonna have a bad time. This is so true. Don't confuse being tired with burning out. These are different things. Being tired is one thing. Burning out is when your body literally quits on you. Okay, I'm no expert in those things, but I've seen this happen over and over again. And the damage is huge, personally for you, and also because it ruins your plan, your strategy. Okay, you're gonna need a lot of time to recover. So work smarter, not harder. Keep this in mind. Cybersecurity is a marathon, not a sprint. So don't burn your energy, all at once. Exercising, eating well, sleeping, socializing, all those things your grandma probably told you, they're true. They're true. If you want to succeed in this area, it's a lifetime effort. So yeah, do not neglect those. So I just wanted to, bring this to your attention as well, since you're, just beginning this. It's so beautiful to see people, come into this area, but it's important to highlight that these are very common and real dangers. All right. Cool. I think that is all I had to start with. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you guys have. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Marco. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and speak. Looks like we don't have any questions.
Well, up to you, Victor.
Yeah, I think it's sounds good. I guess, okay, yeah, we have one question. So someone said, how much time to give to the basics?
Yeah, that's a good one. It actually depends, of course, on your background. Again, a mentor will be able to give you a better estimate here. But if you're coming from zero IT background, I would not expect less than 6 months of full dedication here. Like that's for the bare minimum. If you're already coming from an IT background, of course, this can vary. But again, I would not focus on exactly how much time, but how much effort. The key point here is to have a good plan, good resources, and consistency. It's better to work 1 hour, 2 hours every day than work 5 hours just one day. It's not going to be quick, I can assure you this. So from a few months to a few years, that's guaranteed. That's my take on it.
Yeah, as we're waiting for any other question to come in. So I would just ask one. So Marco, from your experience, what would you say is the number one mistake that you see people making during the interview stages? What are some of the things that you feel like you would wish that the candidates are more aware of? Because we see them in these interviews, and sometimes we feel like you should have gotten a mentor. Someone could have just helped you with this thing. So what is that thing that you always kind of feel like they should have known?
I think you spoiled the question. The answer is already there. You should get a mentor for sure. I mean, if you can have someone to help you with this, they're going to be able to assist you and give you like a customized answer for this. Overall, from my experience, I see people who missed some of those 4 points, especially number 3 about learning the basics, learning the fundamentals. I once interviewed a candidate for a pen testing position, and they had some experience with bug bounty, and so they were researching companies for vulnerabilities and trying to report and get some money out of it, which is valid, which is good, is a good experience. The problem is that the person didn't spend the time learning the basics, so they were just running a bunch of tools, a bunch of commands, and sometimes finding some vulnerabilities, but they didn't really know what was there. So I think the core message here is you got to know what you're doing. It's not enough to be an operator to just learn how to operate a few tools. You got to know the fundamentals, whatever is underneath. So to me, the main thing is focus on the basic skills. Take some time with that. Don't rush into it. It is part of the game. That's the real deal. But again, get a mentor.
Yeah, we're getting some more. So Anthony says, thanks for the insightful presentation. What would be the pathway for the non-technical cybersecurity roles? I think you touched upon this a bit, but maybe you want to emphasize on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Anthony. I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation. I think there's not a single answer, but one of the common ways is to start with a non-security related job, but IT related job. Even if it's like a help desk position or a system administrator, network operator, all those things will allow you to gain more experience and knowledge about the fundamentals. Again, it's all about learning the fundamentals. So it's very clear when I see candidates coming from a non-IT background that spent some time in one of those positions, and those who didn't, they just took a boot camp or a course and they're trying to get their job. So gaining this familiarity and experience, I think it's a good strategy. Again, it's not the only one, but it's going to help you build in a solid understanding of the fundamentals and gaining some experience. Also, it might help you to move laterally. So maybe inside your company, you're working as a system administrator or help desk, and they might have some security related position. Then you can start, knowing more about it, talking to more senior folks. That could be a strategy as well. But again, only a mentor will be able to help you with this more specifically.
Yeah, I think that's great. Like getting your foot in the door, that's already like 50% there, and then you can know exactly what you need to be working on. And
Yeah.
so that's great. We have another one. So TJ is asking like how do you ask for help when you get stuck? It feels it's easy for other people, but it's not always the case for everyone.
So let me see if I got it straight. So whenever you're, studying, learning, and you get stuck and you don't know about, I think that's the question, right? Well, there is a strong community out there online. There are many resources you could get help for sure. Some of them are reliable, some are not. But if you're studying by yourself, my recommendation would be to get a specific mentor, someone that has already been through all that, has already been stuck, and they're going to be able to unlock you. So I think that's the best strategy. Having a community support for sure, but specifically a few people that will be able to give you a customized answer. Look you in the eyes, understand your situation, your goals, and say, hey, you're doing this wrong, go that way, or maybe we should try this. So I think that's the best strategy for now. But also don't be frustrated if you get stuck. You will get stuck at some point. We all do. It's also important to develop your resilience and what we call the try harder mentality, and try to do it by yourself. So at some point, this is also part of the game.
Yeah, we all get stuck, when that little stuff that you don't seem to be able to figure out, and then you kind of just go off and do something else, or you wake up the next morning, and then you figure it out. But it's not always the case, obviously. So you need support from both a community, but also a mentor. And there's another good one there, which is, do you have to be technical first to lead a cybersecurity team?
My take on it? No, for sure not. There are many non-technical positions in cybersecurity. So I know people who have never written one single line of code. They have never pen tested anything, and still they do a great job in cybersecurity. Now, if you're going to lead a team, well, that is a little bit more complicated. It depends. It depends a lot on your environment. But I would say that somebody that has the fundamental knowledge of security or some experience will normally make a better cybersecurity leader. So whatever you're trying to achieve, whatever your goals are, if they're for leadership, management, or even non-tech security, I would still recommend you to spending some time with the basics as well. It applies to mostly everybody. It's not going to hurt for sure. It's not going to hurt. So I would say that focus on the fundamentals, and then you'll see.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, I think that was the last one. It's been really great, Marco. I'm sure every one of us has learned one or two things, and hopefully everyone has something to go back with now. I encourage everyone to go ahead and you can book Marco on mentorcolor.org. And you can also book other cybersecurity mentors if you're looking for, as Marco said, customized advice and guidance. Also, you should have received emails around this session, so feel free to let us know how you benefited from this and what you've learned. And finally, feel free to check out other sessions that we have for this week and even next week. So thanks a lot, everyone. And yeah, have a great evening for some of you, and yeah, have a great day for the rest of you.
Thank you all, folks. Have a nice one.
Yeah, thanks.